the Shibuda der Abnosim, I'll go straight to Florida. Okay. Here we go. So we had a story on Daf Tes Zayin, or is it Tes Vav Aleph? On Tes Zayin Aleph. We had a story with Bar Kapara where he upset Rebbe. I just want to quickly review the story. The Gemara was discussing how long Nazifa is, and we said that our Nidui is like their Nazifa, which would be 7 days. But the Nazifa over there, the Gemara illustrates with a story where Reb Shimon bar Rebbe was living with Bar Kapara, and Reb Shimon told Bar Kapara, this needs a Rebbe. And Bar Kapara said back, Rebbe won't know the answer, referring to Rebbe, Reb Shimon's father. So when Reb Shimon told his father that Bar Kapara told him that Rebbe won't know the answer, the next time Bar Kapara came to greet Rebbe, Rebbe said, I don't even know who you are. And because of that, Bar Kapara knew that he slighted Rebbe, and because of that, he took Nazifas of 30 days. So this was a kasha, because the Gemara says that Nazifa of Bnei Yisrael are only 7 days, yet here you see that Bar Kapara enacted on himself Nazifa for 30 days. Then the next story was with Reb Chia and Rebbe. Rebbe, the Nasi again, made a gzeira that people shouldn't learn Talmud Torah Rabbim. Reb Chia didn't comply, and once again, Rebbe was upset with him, and he actually used a derogatory reference to him. He called him Iya, and he didn't want to meet with him. And once again, because of that, Reb Chia enacted upon himself Nazifos for 30 days. And that was the Gemara's kasha. How could you say it's 7 days? You see here that it's 30 days. And I got a little confused when he learned the kasha, because the Gemara uses the word 3 days. So the Gemara says over here, Alma Nazifa Dehu Tlas Yoimin. You see Nazifa is 3 days. It really should say Tlasin Yoimin. It really should say 30 days. And the Gemara answered, Nazifa is Nasi Shaini. In fact, Nazifa is only 7 days in Eretz Yisrael, but the two examples that we quoted where Bar Kapara and Reb Chia put themselves into a Nazifa for 30 days, that's because it was the Nasi that they slighted. If they would have slighted any other person, it would have only been 7 days. But since it was the Nasi they were playing with, that caused them to increase the Nazifa to the 30 days. Okay, so the last thing we were up to was David HaMelech. There was a discussion how David HaMelech had his last things that he said, and there were medayik that it must be that David HaMelech said additional things. And the Gemara wants to know what were the additional things that David HaMelech said. So it says over here, Rishayim Mahi. So we are probably about 20 lines from the bottom at Daf Tes Zayin Amud Beis. Rishayim Mahi. So it says, Veidaber David Lashem, as Divrei Hashira Hazois, V'yom Hitzel Hashem Oisoi, Mikaf Kol Oivav, Mikaf Shol. So Amalek HaKadosh Baruch Hu to David. The HaKadosh Baruch Hu told David, Shira Ata Omer al Mapalose Shol Shol, you're celebrating the Mapal of Shol. That's not appropriate. And not only that, Ilmoli Ata Shol V'hu David, if you would be Shol and he would be David, Ibadata Kama David Mipanav, you would have been destroyed multiple times. So your Shol might even be better than you. And after David got that Musar, if she got into David admitted I made a mistake. Asher Shor Lashem, that I sang Shira al Divrei Kush Ben Yamini, referring to Shol. The Chazonish comments on this Gemara. What was David's Havamina? David's Havamina was sure Shol had a downfall, but that doesn't absolve me of being Makar Toiv to the Rebbeinu Shalom in that he saved me. So sure, I have to feel bad for Shol, but I also owe a curse to the Rebbeinu Shalom. And the Rebbeinu Shalom answered back that no, your success is totally, it's completely bound together as one unit with Shol's downfall, and therefore it's not appropriate for you to say Shira. It's referring to Shol with the word Kush. His name wasn't Kush, but it's Shol Shemoy. Elamai Kushi, just like someone who's black. His skin is different, completely different, that cannot be changed. Av Shol, Shol, unbelievable Maisa. So that's why he was called Cush. He was so outstanding in his Maisa. It says that Miriam spoke to Aaron of Horeb, Al Oidois, Ha'isha, Akushus Asher Lokach, because he married a woman that was black. Her last name wasn't Schwartz, her last name was Yisroi. Valoi Tzipora Shemot. Her name was Tzipora. It wasn't Schwartz. Elamakushis, Mishuna just like Akushis. Her skin is completely different. After Tzipora Mishuna B'Maiseha, she had Mishuna Dekamaisim, she was a Mordecai Tzadekis. She was a Mordecai Tzadekis. Kayota B'Davar Ataymer.
How do we know that? We have very little information about Tzipora.
How did we know Tzipora was a Tzadekis?
Yeah. I mean, you can say
the word she's referred to as a Schwarzer.
I know, but what information do we have that Chazal determined that she's a big tzaddikus?
I thought because she was called Kushas.
Who called her Kushas? The Torah.
The Torah.
Well, maybe she was just dark skinned.
I guess the Gemara assumed that she wasn't. Maybe she was. What? Maybe she was a Kushas.
Why not? She comes from Mitzrayim. She's half Mitzri. Midyan is the daughter of Hagar. Hagar is a Mitzris.
Well, Dave, was she on Biden's list for Supreme Court justice? How do you know that?
I wouldn't be surprised. So they're darker skinned. The Midyanim are darker skinned.
But for some reason, the Gemara seems to assume that we cannot consider here Kushas. I don't know. I thought her last name was Schwartz.
The Rashbam says that she was darker skinned.
So I don't know. I don't know the answer. Okay, so let's do the Gemara says weiter. Kayoyt midover atoimer. Vayishma Eved Melech Hakushi. And it's referring to King Tzidkiah. V'chikushi shmoi, but Tzidkiah shmoi. Elamakushi mishuna ba'ayra. Just like a kushi has a unique skin color. Av Tzidkiah mishuna b'maisov. Chayoyt b'davar atoimer. The Navi tells Klal Yisrael, Haloich v'nei kushim atem. You are all like Schwarze. The Rebbeinu Shalom calling Navi calling Klal Yisrael Schwarze. Yisrael. V'chikushim Shimon. Are we Schwarzes? V'ayra Yisrael Shimon. Klal Yisrael is different than all other ummahs. We have other different ma'asim. So, David, I'm thinking to myself as I'm speaking, maybe you're asking, maybe kushi means dark skin, but could be since the Gemara sees that in all other places when it says kushi, it doesn't mean dark skin. So the Gemara is saying maybe you could say that by tzipar as well.
Okay, I was thinking that as you were saying it, actually.
I don't understand David's kasha from the beginning. He thinks that Moshe Rabbeinu picked the worst of the 7 girls. He picked the best.
No, he picked he got the oldest, the ones that was ready to get married. The other ones were too young.
And how do you know that?
I don't. I'm presuming that he would marry off his oldest daughter before the rest.
Well, you pick on Chazal, how they know stuff, so I'm picking on you.
Okay, so I'm giving you an answer. She was the oldest, and he wouldn't marry off his youngest before his oldest.
So I don't think she was the oldest. I think she was the best.
Okay.
You picked the best. I picked the best. Zalman picked the best.
Okay.
There was a guy I used to bring him coffee. He was working on my jobs. So I asked him, how do you like your coffee? He said, I like coffee like I like my women, hot and black. So Moshe Rabbeinu definitely picked the best. No question about that. Talk to Gemara weiter.
He didn't use the term kushis, though, did he?
No, he did not.
That's a good joke to put on YouTube.
Okay. Talk to Gemara weiter. So I want to speak out from the Rebbe, Chaitzi's Rebbe. The Satmar Rebbe says, what does it mean? We may have very different views as to how to do Avodas Hashem. Satmar might be very different from Kloisenberg and from Lubavitch and from Bobov and from Litvische and from Svardim. But we all have the same goal in mind. So we're Mishunim b'Masayim, we all have different minhagim in different ways, but we all have the same goal to do Avodas Hashem and to bring Kvod Shemayim. Amar Rav Shmuel bar Nachmeni Amar Rav Yonasan. My Tachsiv, it says in the Pasuk, Noam David ben Yishai, this is at the end of Shmuel Beis, Noam David ben Yishai, the words of David ben Yishai, Noam HaGeber, Hukam Al. So what is this Hukam Al? Noam David ben Yishai, Shehekim Oila Shel Tshuva. He raised the bar when it comes to Tshuva. What does it mean? He raised the bar when it comes to Tshuva. So let's see what Rashi says. There's a lot of nice ha'aras on this that he raised the bar. So let's see if we can find it. Second. Here comes from Shuvah Rashi. Shehu shav tchila. He did Tshuva first. V'nasan derech l'shav. And he paved the path for everybody who wants to do Tshuva. This Maisa with Bathsheba was not appropriate for David. It wasn't something that would have been typical of David at all. Ella, the Rebbeinu Shalom made this happen to him. If anybody does Tshuva, does a Nevera, and because of that he loses hope and thinks he could never possibly do Tshuva, I'm going to tell him, Kalach Eitzel David, look at David HaMelech who did this Nevera. Even this terrible Avera, the Rebbeinu Shalom was Moichel David. Whatever you did, it can't be as bad as what David did. And he did Tshuva, you could do Tshuva as well. So that's why the Rebbeinu Shalom made this happen to David HaMelech. There are those who learn, the Chiddush Svarim say that it's interesting. It says, Mizmor David b'voyoi al Nasan hanovi. When David HaMelech came to the Tshuva, he was singing. He brought Tshuva to the level of a mitzvah that is much as he enjoyed Aveira, the Tshuva Samishkal was the same. He had such a happiness of being able to do Tshuva that it made him say Shira. Shehikim Oilo Shel Tshuva. He raised the bar of Tshuva that is something he said Tshuva for. And the Chassam Sofer says, fascinating. Isn't it funny that on Yom Kippur, when we're saying the Shamni, we do it in a song. It's not a song, we're doing Tshuva. We're supposed to be crying. What do we see? We do it because of this. Because when you're doing a mitzvah, the mitzvah of Tshuva, it has to be done b'simcha. Even crying and having charata of our various, that also has to be done b'simcha, and that also requires that we sing the shir while we're doing Tshuva. Because I always wondered, what of us were singing when we're doing Tshuva? And I always wondered, why is it that we dance the Hara by Chasanas to the Nagunim that the Svardim use on Yom Kippur? And our horrors are what they sing on Yom Kippur. But you see, it's one and the same. It's a mitzvah of Tshuva, and we're happy with those mitzvahs.
I mean, Shamnu is in a minor key, so it doesn't have, it's not an upbeat tune.
Okay.
There is music
still
that
in
is.
sing-song.
I don't see how he could do a tshuva shlema. He sent to Yechiti to his death. He can't undo that.
It's funny that you bring that up, because we're going to see from the Gemara that he never was able to fully recover from that affair. In fact.
Well,
So Zok Gemara weiter. Omar Elokei Yisrael. So I'll first touch it with the Pasuk shot based on the Metzudas David, and then we'll see how the Gemara darshans on it. So Omar Elokei Yisrael, Li Daber, Hashem talked to me, Sur Yisrael, Li Diber Sur Yisrael. The Rebbeinu Shalom spoke to me, Moishel Ba'adam, Tzadik, Moishel Yiras Elikim. The Rebbeinu Shalom made me the leader of Klal Yisrael, and he made me the leader because he knew that I would impose Yiras Shamayim on my subjects.
Excuse me, could you tell me where you're holding?
Sure. We are on Daf Tez Zayin Amud Beis, and we're about 15 lines from the bottom. and we're about to discuss a pasuk with David HaMelech. David HaMelech at the end of Shmuel said, Amar Elokei Yisrael, Li Diber Sur Yisrael, Moshel Ba'adam Tzadik, Moshel Yiras Elokim. So Pasuk Prat is that the Rebbe Shalom made David HaMelech the king of Klal Yisrael to impose Yiras Shamayim on them. Mike Omer, but what's the deeper meaning of what David HaMelech was saying? Omer Bo Hachik Omer. Omer Elokei Yisrael, the Rebbe Shalom told me, Li Diber Sur Yisrael, this is what Hashem told me. Ani Moshel Ba'adam. Me, the Rebbeinu Shalom, I rule over mankind. Me Moshel be, but who rules over me? Who could overrule even the Rebbeinu Shalom? Tzaddik. Shani goes there because I, the Rebbeinu Shalom, Kavayachol, saying I make Gzeres. Shani goes there, Umavatla, and the Tzaddikim are able to be Mevatel, the Gzeres of the Rebbeinu Shalom. Eila Shemois Hagiborim Asher David Yosy B'Shemes. So this book is talking about the strong people who were around David HaMelech to protect him when he was old and weak at the end of his life. But the Gemara dashes a different. Mike Omer, Omer Abdul Hachik Omer, the Eila Shemois Gevuros of Shal David. These are the names of the Gevura of David, Yosy B'Shemes. What does that mean? When David HaMelech sat and learned in yeshiva, he never sat on mattresses and pillows because till the day he died, he imposed discomfort upon himself because he never felt that he was able to completely be misakin daver, and therefore he would never sit in comfort like everybody else. El al gabi karka, only on the floor. The Chol Kama Davar Rabbi Ira Kayim, as long as his Rebbe was Kamakayim, so he was a Talmud. Have a master who the Rabbon al Gabi Kar Muksasos. His Rebbe Ira would teach the Olam sitting on Kar Muksasos. The Rebbe sat on in comfort. But Kinoch Nafshe, when his Rebbe died, and now David became the Rebbe, have a master David Rabbon and Baba Yosef al Gabi Kar. He wouldn't sit in comfort like the Rebbe normally sits. Rather, he sat on the floor. They told him, David HaMelech, why don't you sit on Kar Muksasos? He wouldn't be Mekabel for himself. Why? Because he wanted to continue to give himself discomfort because he needed to have a kapara. It says Tachakamuni, or Tachkamuni, which is actually a street in Geula. But Tachkamuni, if you read in the pasuk, it's a continuation of the pasuk that we quoted, and it said this is one of his close defenders who was with him in Chachma, who was with him on the best. But we dash no differently. Amar Rav, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hoil v'ishpalta atzmecha tehei. Since you made yourself so low, you were so vanivus, I'm going to make you like me, referring to what we just said a minute ago. Shani goyzer gzeira v'ata mevatla. I can make a gzeira, but you, David HaMelech, could be mevatla. Because of how you were mashal yourself and you were doing tshuva, I'm going to give you such a koyach that you could be mevatla like gzeira that I made. Rosh Hashalishim, so we dashin, they rosh l'shlosh tezavos. He was going to be, David HaMelech is going to be a rosh ahead of the others, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. What does this mean? For this, we have to look in Rashi. Rashi tells us, Mamish Moed. Rashi is rosh l'gimel avos. So I'm on Rashi on the second column, and I'm 4 lines from the bottom of Rashi. Rosh l'gimel avos. Shehu hoylech lefneim lo'olam haba. David HaMelech walked ahead. He walks ahead of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov in Olam Haba. That's unbelievable. Why does he walk ahead of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov in Olam Haba? And where do you see that he's walking ahead of them? So the Rashash refers to the famous Gemara in Sanhedrin when HaKadosh Baruch Hu was trying to convince Yeravam to do tshuva, and he told Yeravam, "Come do tshuva." He chapped in Yeravam, "Come do tshuva." Vani v'ata u'benisha yatal v'ganei, and Yeravam asked Hashem, "Mi barosh," and Hashem said, "Before you asked, you were going to be barosh." Like it says, "Vani v'ata u'benisha." I listed you first, but now that you showed arrogance and you asked who's first, now David HaMelech is in front of you. But I'll call upon them. Hashem is walking with Yerovam and David, not with the others. The others are behind him. So you see, David HaMelech was even in a higher madrega than the others. Why? So the Rishah shares because the Mokum Shabbat and Shuba Oimdim, as Tada Gomer cannot stand. So David, as a Baal Tshuva, had a higher madrega than even the others.
I once heard a pshat that Yerovam ben Nevat also heard. Yerovam ben Nevat also understood that he was going to walk in front because it says his name first.
So why did he ask?
Why did he ask? He knew. It said his name first. So the answer, I forget who answers, is because he wanted to hear it a second time. He wanted that Hano. And once Hashem said, oh, you want to hear it a second time, now you lost it.
Wow. Okay, gewaltig. Sagt die Gemara weiter. Who Adina Yatzni, which is the person that the pasuk is referring to, was one of the three people who was close to David. But we dash this is going on David itself. Adina Yatzni. Kishayoshev v'oyisik v'Torah. When David was learning Torah, he made himself soft like a worm, flexible. What's pshat? Because he was makabel from anybody. So he knew when he should be soft. He knew when he should be compromising. He knew when he should bend. He knew when he should be bachno. But it was just but when he was going out to war, then that's no room to be soft. Then you have to be very strong and forceful. So Adina Yetzli, he knew when to be soft and he knew when to be rigid. And then the pasuk goes by and says, Al Shmoina Meyos Chalal Bepamachas. 800 people, when he used to throw his arrows, who would kill 800 people at once. So Yezorek Chetz, Umapel Shnoina Meyos Chalal Bepamachas, and David HaMelech, till the end of his life, would correct and would feel bad al Masayim, because he was missing 200. Because 800 is 200 less than 1,000. So you see that the really the way it's supposed to be is one each should be able to run after 1,000 going. Nor both, he wasn't zoiche, he did avers, and that's why he only was able to take out 800 at a time. Yot the Baskal v'Amra Rak v'Davar Uryachiti. So referring to what David Zoldi said, that avera of having Uryachiti, he doesn't say the avera of Bathsheba. It is the very Uriachiti, which David Zolti brought up. He caused the death of Uriachiti. For that, he never had a full kapar in his lifetime because he was never able to run after 1,000. He could only do 800. So this is a serious yichus brief. This is like the emails I sometimes get that are forwarded like 25 times till they get to me. But Amri Law, Amr Rav Tanchem, Amr Rav Huna, Amri Law, Amr Rav Huna L'Chudei. So this is like when I get the same WhatsApp video from 3 different people, so I get 3 different yichus briefs on it. So the Mishnah said, the Gemara says at the top of Yud Zayin Amud Aleph, Talmud Shenida L'Chvoida. And we had this Gemara already on Tezayin Amud Aleph. A Talmud who put someone into Cherem. Why? Because this person hurt him personally. It wasn't because he was doing an avla against the Torah. The Nidui work. The Talmud Chacham could be menada somebody for causing him a personal issue. The Tanya we learned, Menuda l'Rav, Menuda l'Talmud. But Menuda l'Talmud and Menuda l'Rav. So you see that you could be a Menuda l'Talmud. L'Rav, who the Ein Menuda. If it's Menuda l'Talmud, he's not Menuda l'Rav. Haluchula alma Menuda. But for everybody else, he is Menuda. So you see that neither works, except it doesn't include the Rav. Lamai. What exactly did this person do wrong that the Talmud was Menada him? Even Mil Dishmaya, Shuli, could you keep down? Even Mil Dishmaya, if he did an Avera, so of course he's going to be in Chair for everybody. Ein Chochma, Vein Tfuna, Vein Etel, Neged Hashem. So if a Talmud was Menada somebody because he was doing an Avera, then Avad is Menuda Rav. And Lav, what type of Chair does not apply to the Rav is L'Chavar Atzmai. Rabbi Yosef. Tzuver Merabon. The Talmud Chacham, Ovid Dina Lenavshe, he's allowed to paskin by himself, and there are those who show them a learn he can put someone in the Cherem by himself. The Mills of the particular, if he's 100% sure. The Ritva actually puts a different twist on it. He says, everybody's done Dina Lenavshe. So what the Gemara here is saying is, a Talmud Chacham before it'll be done in al-nafshe, he should be more mavater. He should be more mavater, and he should give people the benefit of the doubt, and he shouldn't exert and enforce his opinion. Unless it's 100% clear and sure. Otherwise, the Talmud Chacham should usually be mavater. So the Ritva learns the opposite of what his Pashup Shah is.
First of all,
So this is a very, very, very relevant to our contemporary issues that we've heard recently. There was a Talmud Chacham that have a Sadu Shumani. He had a bad reputation. Let's see what his bad reputation was about. Sadu Shumani, I'm on the third line from the top in Rashi. And Rashi says Sadu Shumani means there's bad stuff coming out about him. And the Ritva learns that he was being miyachad with pnuyos. He was secluding himself with pnuyos. So that's very not good. That's very not a good reputation. Tzrichele Rabbanon. I'm sorry, I'm skipping a line. What should we do with this person? Lishamte. Everyone put him in the chayim.
Where?
If you're going to suggest that we should put him in the chayim, tzrichele Rabbanon. The Rabbanon need him to ask shilas. He's the Talmud Chacham, and people ask shilas from him. He's an important rov. But if we don't put him in the chayim, come mischil shema d'shmaya. It's mamash achil Hashem that we're letting such a person run around, circulate with no restriction. So as you know, Rabbi Yehuda was an anaf. He didn't know. He reached out to a colleague. Maybe you heard an opinion about how we should deal with this. This is what Rabbi Yochanan said. It says in the pasuk, the lips of a kohen protects das. The Torah yevakshu mipiu, and you should look for Torah. You should look to learn Torah from his mouth. Why? Malach Hashem tzavakitzu. And we darshan im doima harab lamalach Hashem. If a rab is squeaky clean and he's doima to a malach, then yevakshu Torah mipiu. The imlav al yevakshu Torah mipiu. So what Rabbi Yochanan said was, what do you mean we need him for halacha? We shouldn't consult with him about halacha at all. You know why? Because he's a Rasha. He's not a Malach Hashem Tzavoi. So Avada we shouldn't learn Torah from him. So Avada you should put him in the Cher. Shamti Rav Yehuda put him in the Cher. So on this, there's a lot of interesting Torah here. So one big shah that comes out of this Gemara is you see from here, it doesn't matter how good the book is. If the author is not appropriate, you have to destroy his books. And I'm not referring to what you're thinking. I'm referring to a tshuva that the Kloisenberger Rebbe wrote. The Kloisenberger Rebbe wrote that you have to be very makpid when you learn. He said all the Rebbes were very makpid when they learned the Sefer. They would not be willing to learn in the Sefer until they knew with clarity that its author was a Yorei Shemayim. Otherwise, they wouldn't look into a Sefer. If someone showed him a Sefer, he wouldn't look into it. First, we need to make sure that the author is a Yorei Shemayim. But this has come up in contemporary issues as well. And here you see from the Gemara that you're not supposed to look into a sefer unless you know that the person who wrote it was a Yerei Shemayim.
Yosy?
Yes.
You're allowed, you got put into cherem with just from rumors without any proof?
That's what the Gemara says over here.
Wow.
But the Gemara is going to discuss exactly what the rumor has to be and how strong the rumor has to be. So the Gemara will actually discuss exactly how you assess rumors. So not every that's called like pasuk. There's rules to what the rumors are. But yes, there's gedolim in this last story that we had recently that quoted this Gemara and the Gemara Megillah that says yes, when you have rumors that have substance to them, yes, you take action. Okay, so the other interesting thing is
you have to find out if it has substance. So you have
That's
to
right.
do a chakira.
I'm sure you do. Yeah.
This time a rumor, I don't think you don't.
So we'll see in the Gemara. The Gemara later is going to discuss it. Not sure today, tomorrow.
At what point is it Lashon Hara and when does it turn into
I don't know. It's a good question because in the Gemara Megillah it says that you're supposed to by Redim, you're supposed to say he's a low life and his mother is probably a low life for raising him. Right? That's what the Gemara at the end of Megillah said.
What do you mean? This is what the Rebbe said before, that everything is Meshula, but if we all have the same goal for the Beshefer, then it's not Lashon Hara.
Okay.
Right?
I guess
And
we have
what?
to ask our Rav, what is considered a rumor that's reliable and what not. But I think the Rav made his opinion pretty clear a couple of weeks ago. So I want to share another story. I was by the Levaya of Rabbi Ruderman Zatzal. And I remember when I was in Philadelphia, we went to two Levayas. We went to Rabbi Schneer's Levaya and to Rabbi Ruderman's Levaya. And it's uncomfortable to say, but Levayas were a lot of fun because it was an opportunity for us to come together with all these yeshivas. We had busing from all these yeshivas. I was able to see all my friends because everybody comes. It was unbelievable. But by that Levaya, the Reb Kalevsky, Zatzal was not either alive, but then he was. Reb Kalevsky spoke by Reb Ruderman's Levaya. And he said over that when I first became a Rebbe in Baltimore, I was spending so much time in preparing for my class, I didn't have any time to learn anything for myself. And I felt like someone who's working overtime hours and he doesn't have time to be kaveit and l'Torah. I felt very not comfortable with the situation. So he says, I went to the Rosh Hashiva Tzal, I went to Rabbi Ruderman, and Rabbi Ruderman told me this Gemara. He says, it says, Kisif Sekar Nishmei Das, V'Sari Yavaksh Mepiu, Ki Malach Hashem Tzavok Yesu, Yibdoi Ma'arab L'Malach Hashem Yavaksh Torah Mepiv, V'Mlav Al Yavaksh Torah Mepiv. And he said that in the Akdama to the Sefer HaFlaw, the HaFlaw writes that what this means is a Malach is someone who has only one job and one shlichus. The Rebbeinu gives him one shlichus at a time, and that's all he's supposed to do. So the Rebbeinu told him, you're a Rebbe has to be like a Malach, meaning your entire life's mission, your entire focus has to be 100% on teaching your Talmidim. And therefore, there's nothing wrong with that. You're supposed to be Kamalach Hashem Tzavakos. You're supposed to have only one job, one objective, one focus. That'll be perfectly fine. So that's what the Ruderman Zatzal told Rav Kalashki Zatzal. Anyway, Rabbi Yehuda put him in the cherem because Rabbi Yechanan's a rule. A Rav has no business paskening if he has bad rumors about him. Shabtai Rabbi Yehuda. L'soif ichlish Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda got sick. We don't know if it was linked to this, but we know he got sick. And also the Rabbanan the Rabbanan came to be Mevakachayla. And guess what? This Rav came along. He also came. If you think about it, Rabbi Yehuda just put him in the cherem, and now he's coming to be Mevakachayla Rabbi Yehuda. Kadchazer Rabbi Yehuda, when Rabbi Yehuda saw that he walked into the Mevakachayla in the Chayach, he laughed. Amalei, so the person who was in the cherem said, Loi mistayich nishamtech lo gabra. It's bad enough that you put me in the cherem. Now that I come to visit you, you're laughing at me? Amalei, so Rabbi Yehuda said, Lav b'didach mechayach. I'm not laughing at you. When I end up going to Olam Haba, I'm very calm and happy. You know why? Because I had backbone. I wasn't being machin of you. I wasn't doing chanif on you. I held my ground. I held that you were a balavera, and I held that we had to put you in cherem, and I did what was right, and I wasn't afraid of you, even though you were a powerful Rav in the city. Eventually, Nach Nafshid Rabbi Yehuda, and now this rabbi wanted to shake the cherem. Also, he told him, "Shoringly, could you please take me out of cherem?" Amalei Rabbanan, they told him, "Gavra the Choshev Rabbi Yehuda lekahachad elishulach." We don't have anybody who can overrule Rabbi Yehuda's cherem. However, Elazil Gabed Rabbi Yehuda Nesiah, go to Rabbi Yehuda Nesiah. He's very great, and he will be able to be matir cherem the lishulach. So he went to Rabbi Yehuda Nesiah, and Rabbi Yehuda Nesiah subcontracted it up to his Talmud. Amalei Rabami, he told Rabami, "Hook Ayin Medina, could you please look into this situation with this rabbi? If he's deserving of getting a pardon, we'll give him a pardon." Rabbi Ami looked into it. He thought, he presented his findings to Rabbi Yehuda Nesiah, and he said, "I think we should be matter this neither." Amad Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani al Ragla. So Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani stood up in the Beis Medrash and he protested. V'amar, and he said, "Umashivcha shal beis Rebbe, madach hashivcha in the house of Rebbe, lo nahadu chachamim kalash rosh b'diduya." If she put someone in the cherem, the chachamim took it very seriously. Shaloi shanim, for 3 years, they wouldn't violate her cherem. Yehuda chavereinu, our dear chaver Yehuda, Allah has kama v'kama, surely we shouldn't overrule his chayrim. Omar B'Zera, my the kamon, the author it. High sabbath levidrasha. The kama shani loyosa. What is Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani doing here in the Besmedrash? She hasn't been here in years. The fact that he popped in today and he hasn't been here in years means Hashem is sending us a message, and we should listen to him. We shouldn't be matir this chayr. Now, the Maritzchi speaks of something very interesting, and he said every time Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani is quoted in Shas, it's always on a milsa d'Agadata. He's only quoted in Shas for a milsa d'Agadata. And in those days, they had a separate Besmedrash where they learned milsa d'Agadata. And it was a different Besmedrash where they learned Lamdas. So Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani never came to the shul because he was always learning milsa d'Agadata. And this day, he showed up in this Besmedrash where they learned Lamdas, which is completely not typical and unusual. And that's why they realized that they should listen to him because this was a simon. So this rabbi just found out that he's not getting out of chayr. So now he's not in such a good mood. He's not in such a good mood. So the halach is nafak. He left the Besmedrash, and we're soon going to see he probably left the Besmedrash because he needed to go to the washroom. And we'll see how I know that in a second. As he was crying and leaving, also zibura, a zibura came against some type of fly, some type of wasp, and what did it do to him? Utrake amamte. He had himself uncovered, so it bit him in his aver, and that caused him to get sick. Vishachiv, and he died. After he died, I lulu ma'ara to the Hasidim. They took him to the Myra of Hasidim to bury them. V'loy kiblu. They wouldn't let him in. I think some of the Rishonim said there was a snake that wouldn't let them into the Myra. Then I lulu ma'ara to Dayani. They took him to the Myra where Dayanim lived. The kiblu, and they were makabelim. And Rashi says something very, very interesting. Who's greater, a chusid or a tzaddik? So from here you see, Dr. Rashi. From here you see Dr. Rashi. Dayani, Rosh Bezin, the Chasidim, Adifim Minay. Chasidim are greater than Rosh Bezin. I'm not going to get into details on that. But nevertheless, the fact that he got in to be buried with the Rosh Bezin means he must have done tshuva. And the Rishonim speak out that the Kikabachi Ba'azul, after he was denied the heter of the Nidui, he was crying and doing tshuva, and that's why at least he got in to the Ma'ayr of the Dayan.
Yeah, see the note here shows it because of Chassidim show Rachamim.
Because Chassidim what?
Show Rachamim.
But the Chassidim didn't let him in.
I'm saying that's why they're higher than.
Oh, they're higher because they show Racham.
Yeah.
Yosy,
Yes.
I just looked back in the Gemara because we were discussing this. I looked back in Megillah, and the Chafetz Chaim, he notes in the article, he says it's important to note that this ruling applies only to one who constantly transgresses the mitzvahs and deservedly has a reputation for such behavior. However, if someone not known to be a transgressor becomes the subject of rumors, it's forbidden to rely on these rumors for the purposes of this halacha, even if they're widespread.
The question is what's widespread? We don't know. That we
No, but I'm
only
just
are
saying
to tell
it's
us.
not,
Good.
you definitely have to investigate. That's all I'm saying.
You definitely what?
Have to investigate.
That's right. That's right. No question about it. I don't know if I have to investigate or you have to investigate. Maybe we should leave it far off to make that determination.
Listen, it behooves Moshe Weinberg to speak up, to give us halachas about Lashon Hara. But I look back at the Gemara and I believe that when he came together with the Rabbanim to visit Rabbi Yehuda may have been chosh at him that he came to gloat. And that's why he told him, don't gloat so much because I'm going to come before the B'Shefer with a clean heart. That's what I think could happen there.
I hear it. My question is, if he was in Chaim, why were the Rabbanim not enforcing it? Like, why were the Rabbanim being within 4 amos of him? Like,
Maybe he just showed up. Maybe he just showed up on his own and he was there when they were there.
I hear it. Okay, Zok Gemara, my timer. This is also the question. My timer that the kiblu, or my timer that he was killed. So either the Ava Kid Rabbaloi or the Avar Rabbaloi. There's two different Gosois. Either he did Rabbaloi and that's why they were Makabalim, or the Avar Rabbaloi, he did not do Rabbaloi and that's why he died. The time that we learned, Rabbaloi Omer, if someone sees that his Yitzhahar is being misgaber over him, and he needs to do an Avera, and he can't control himself, he should go to a place where he's not recognized, and he should wear black clothing, and then let him do whatever he needs to do, let him get it out of his system, and he shouldn't make a chil Hashem b'farhesya. And since he did that, that's why he was able to be accepted by the Dayan. Now this is what we just learned.
What if he's already wearing black clothing?
So we have there's a lot of Torah on here. So first, let's see Rashi.
What if he's the chassid? He's wearing black clothing.
Put on a baseball hat.
I hear.
Put on a baseball hat.
So let's see what Rashi says. Avera, unbelievable. He's actually giving you a green light to do an Avera. Since no one recognizes him where he does his Avera, leka chil Hashem, which is Mabel al Harayin. So let's look at Tosfos before we finish Rashi. Let's slide over to Tosfos, the first skinny line. That can't be what Rabbi Loy is saying, that you could go do Averas. Ella, if you're a little Yilvash Chayim and you go where nobody knows you, you're not so high and mighty anymore. Forget when you're a guest and you're away, you tend to be less controlled by your Yitzhahara, and maybe that will stop you from doing the Aveira. And that's what Reb Hai Goyin says. Amar on Rebbe, which Reb Hai Goyin back in Rashi, he won't do the Aveira. And the Arab Adavar Sheni Chavetz Mikan Veilach. Maybe traveling away where he's not in his comfort zone, maybe that'll calm his Yitzhahara down, and he won't do the Aveira. And the Ben Yoda says, what his heart really wants to do. Like we know, a Yid really wants to do mitzvahs and good things. So maybe a day putting on shchayr and being in a place where he's foreign, maybe his real heart will come strong and he won't do the Aveira.
I don't understand.
No, they say that if you dress up in black and you go far away where you don't know anybody, you're going to end up meeting all your friends there. And that's why you're not going to do that here. Okay, so Shivcha shel Beis Rebbe Mahi. We said a second ago that the Shivcha of Beis Rebbe, her chayrim, they held on for 3 years. So for sure, Rabbi Yehuda's chayrim, we shouldn't just wipe away. So what was the story of the Shivcha of Beis Rebbe? The Amos of the Rebbe, Chazise Lu Gavra, she saw someone hitting an adult child. Now an adult child can hit back. Amra, she said, Lahave Hahu Gavra B'Shamta, this person who hit an adult child deserves to be in Chayr, because he's being over on the Avera of Lifnei Iber L'Chit Michshol, the Tanya, Lifnei Iber L'Chit Michshol, the Maka L'Vnoi Haggadah L'Akoshet Medaber. The Torah is referring to somebody who hits an adult son, and Rashi says, the Kivan, the Gadol, who, since he's an adult, Shema Rashi says, Shema Mavayit Ba'avid, Ba'havilai Iyu Machshiloi, and the father is being Machshil. So let me ask you a question. If I do something that will cause you to do an Aveira, but you don't do the Aveira then, are you over the Iber? So from here we have a riot. The son didn't hit him back, but she said you're over the Iber because maybe it'll cause your son to hit you back. You see from this Gemara that you're over the Iber even if the person who you're trying to be mashal doesn't do the Aveira. But in Kedushin Lamed Beis, there's a Gemara that seems to be mashmal exactly the opposite. The Gemara tells us that Rabbi Bar Huna, whose father was Rav Huna, wanted to see if Rabba, his son, had a temper. So he took a beged, an expensive beged, and he tore it in front of Rabba to see if Rabba will get angry. And the Gemara says, how could Rav Huna do this? Maybe Rabba would get angry and then he would be over on Lifnei Iver. So there the Gemara only suggests that Rav Huna would have been over on Lifnei Iver only if Rabbi actually got angry. So there it's mashma that you're not over Lifnei Iver unless you get angry. So this is a big sugya in the price of Lifnei Iver, whether or not the person being over Lifnei Iver is over Lifnei Iver, even if the person ended up not doing the Aveir. And the Lamdash as far as it's totally in a greater shayla that we discussed earlier. If Lifnei Iver is a standalone lav, or if Lifnei Iver just means you're also over an Aveira, the same Aveira that you caused somebody else to do. So if you convince someone to do an Aveira, you also a shtickle to that same Aveira. So if Lifnei Iver is a standalone lav, then it's mistaver to say that even though that person didn't fall for it, you still got your lav Lifnei Iver. But if it's a chelik of his Aveira, but he never did the Aveira, maybe then you wouldn't be over Lifnei Iver.
What kind of an Avera? What kind of an Avera is getting angry? In other words, you cause somebody to get angry, you're not causing them to do a lav or any Avera. It's not a lav.
The example is against his father. The father's doing it to the sons, so the father.
Maybe it would lead for him to do something to his father. That's a good point. Even though it's a bad midah, there's no lav against getting angry.
He won't be practicing kibbud av.
I have a note in my Gemara that says halacha is that an adult child is either 22 or 24. So until that age, you're good.
Okay.
Maybe Rava was under 22.
Okay, my son's 18. He just heard that, and he ran for the hills. Okay, look to Gemara. Rish Lakish have a manter perdisa. Rish Lakish was watching an orchard. Also, Gavr the Ka'achal taking. A guy just walked right by him and started taking from the orchard. Roman Baikala. Rish Lakish says, "What are you doing? Get out of here! You're a gamblin." The guy totally ignored him. Amar Rish Lakish said, "Lavahu Gavr b'shamta. He should be in chair." Omer Lay, the guy told him back, "What a chutzpah! Adarabba, lahafahu Gavr b'shamta. Who said I'm in chair? You're in the chair." And the Rishonim asked, either he was a big Talmud Chacham himself, this guy, but not likely the Ganev. But Rizvah says, could be there's a halacha that if someone puts you in chayim unlawfully, automatically you're in chayim. In other words, if you put somebody in chayim unlawfully, automatically you're in chayim. And that's what he meant. Since you're putting me in chayim and I don't deserve to be in chayim, you're in chayim. Imam is chayavti loch. Sure, just because I might be mechuyev to pay you for the payers, nidui mean is chayavti loch. Should I be in chayim? You wrongfully put me into chayim. Also, the midrasha. So Rish Lakish said, "That's it. I'm going to go to the Rav." Amalei the Rav told Rish Lakish, "You're wrong. Shaloi nidui, shalocheni nidui. Your chayim is not good. His chayim is good because you were wrong." Umay tekanti. So Rish Lakish said, "Now that I'm in chayim, how could I get myself out of this mess?" So the Rav told him, "Zil agabe delishulach. Go to your victim and ask him to be matir the chayim. Lo yadanu. I don't know who it was. It was some stranger. I didn't get his ID." Amrulay, Zil agabe nisia. Go to the nasi. Delishulach. The nasi will be matir for you. Tanya nidiyu ve'eni yedei minideyu yelech el fanasi ve'yatel nidiyu. That's what he did. Amar Avuna. With Ilsha Iskinu and Ilsha they were misakin.
Yosy,
Yes.
What about the fact? It doesn't just say he stole the fruit or whatever. It says le ashach. He disobeyed the words of a gadol.
That's right.
I guess there was other shamtas work that they did a lot less than that in the last few stories.
Well, those were in the Zifa from a Nasi. Maybe at that time Rish Lakish wasn't the Gadol Dor yet. If he was still watching Tainim, maybe he was just a beginner at the time. I don't know. It's a good art.
He was announced as Ponim, but Rish Lakish had to go to the rules, so obviously he wasn't such a big man then.
No, but he lost the case. Rish Lakish lost.
Not only that,
Maybe Rish Lakish wasn't at his prime yet. Maybe he just became, he just started learning Torah at that time.
maybe they appointed Rish Lakish to watch the orchard because he was a big mafia guy, remember?
That's right.
I guess he wasn't such a big mafia guy in the end.
They didn't kill the guy. Yeah, you're right. Rish Lakish said, if you would have come here 2 weeks ago, I would have killed you. But now I can't kill you anymore. I can just try Chayer.
Yeah.
He said, listen, whenever I sat with my shotgun, I always got the guy. I tried Chayer and it blew back in my face. Amar Ravuna. Ravuna said, Usha Eskinu, In Ushayim Masakin, Abezun Shasorach, and Abezun Dem Navera, Ein Minad and Oisoi, they don't put him at the Cherem, and the Oimerloi, they tell him, Hach Beit B'Shavah B'Eisecha, keep your honor and go on unpaid leave for a couple of weeks. Lie low. But if he does it again, Minad and Oisoi, if they Chil Hashem, then they have to put him in the Cherem because it's Chil Hashem. Upliga Rish Lakish, Yargos Rish Lakish, Domer Rish Lakish, Talmud Chacham Shasorach, Ein Minad and Oisoi B'Fehesha. Even if you're putting a Talmud Chacham in the Cherem, you do it quietly. Shenemar v'chashal tayoyim v'chashal gam novi imcha laila at night. Your aveiros can be by day, but the Talmud Chacham's aveira should be kept at night. Kiseu kalayla, keep it covered. Marzuta Chasida kimechayim tzurvim merabon shamto. Marzuta Chasida, when he had to put a tzurvim merabon into chayim, v'reishim v'shamat nafshei, he would first put himself into chayim, like hila inoy anoichi b'tzara. The Hadar Mishamet L'didei. If he had to go somewhere, Shorel and Avshei, he would be matter his chayim. The Hadar Shorel L'didei, and he would be matter Yanim's chayim. So he wouldn't keep the Yanim and chayim longer than he would keep himself in the chayim. Amar Vidal Morav. Talmud Chacham and Nada la'atzmai umay for la'atzmai. A Talmud Chacham could be Nada himself, and he could be made for himself. Amar Papa. Taisi Li. I deserve respect. I deserve credit. You know why? I never put a Tzurva Merabon in the Cherem. Ella, if you don't put him in the Cherem, what if he needs a little bit of a help? What should you do? They would get together to pass him to give him Malchus, but they wouldn't put him in the Cherem. Cherem is worse than Malchus. My Shamta, what does the word Shamta mean? I think somebody asked that a couple of blot ago. Where did the word Shamta come from? Amarav, Shem Misa. It's the name of death. Shmuel Amar Shemama Yiyeh. He should be desolate. Umahanya Bey, and Cherem helps. Cherem has a huge impact. Titichaya Betanura. It has such an impact in penetrating the person. The damage that a Shamta does is so penetrating to the person, like if you smear grease on the inside of an oven, no matter how much detergent you use, you'll never get all the grease out. Upliga Rish Lakish, who holds that the cherem could be removed without a trace. Domer Rish Lakish, Kishem Shenichnases b'Masayim v'Arboim u'Shmoinei Varim, just like the cherem penetrates 248 Varim, Kach Kishi Yoytze b'Masayim v'Arboim u'Shmoinei Varim, it leaves the 248 Varim. Keshin Nechneses, we know it goes into all 248 of Arim, Dichziv Ha'ir Cherem, and the Cherem is the Gematria, Masayim Barba Mishmoina. Cherem is 248. And Keshiyoita, Dichziv, Beroiges, Rachem Tiskar, when you're angry, Hashem have Rachmanis in us, and Rachem is the same letters as Cherem. Rachem with Gematria, Hachayav is the same 248. Amar Yosy, Shori Shamta, Shadi Shamta, Aganufta the Kalba, the Idi. Try putting cherem just on the tail of a dog, and you'll see what an unbelievable impact it has. What happened was the Rabbanan's shoes always went missing, and they were chewed up, and nobody knew who did it. Well, I have a kayodi manu, they didn't know. So the Rabbanan said, whoever is damaging our shoes, it should be a cherem. And all of a sudden, the Shamtulay, all of a sudden, all of a sudden, there was a dog walking by, and spontaneously, his tail went on fire. And it destroyed the dog. So you see that just put a cherem on the tail of a dog is going to destroy it. There was this tough guy, he was bothering the Rabban. So he came to Rabbi Yosef, Amalei, Zil Shamte, put him in the cherem. Amalei, the Tzuvim Rabban said, I'm afraid to put him in the cherem. He'll kill me. Amalei, so Shekilu Psicha Alei, write the cherem on the paper. So he said, I'm even more afraid. He may see it. Amalei, I'll tell you what to do. Shakle, take your written cherem, Achle Bechada, put it into a clay jug, and then the Achsebe Kivri, go into a basic chorus, the Karibe Alpha Shipure Barbon Yomin, and blow the shofar 1,000 times in 40 days, and that will put the chayim on him. Azil Ovid Hachi and Pakakada, the jug broke open. Umis Alma, this top guy died. So you see, like it was like a voodoo by the jug popping open, the concept of that. My Shipure, what happens? You should blow a shofar, because Shipure shofar has the words that mean Shenefroy Mimenu, they punish him. My Tavra, because they blew a shvarm and a trua as well. My Tavra, on Mabitza Breda Yehuda, Tavri Bate Rami, it could break down big buildings. And that's what the Chayim did. The Tanya Amar Shimon ben Gamliel, Komokim Shenosnu Chachom Meineim, Oimisa Yoimi. If the Chacham have their eyes on something to punish it, it'll cause death or it'll cause poverty. So now that we finished the sugya of Chayim, we're actually going back to Moed Katan, which talks about who's allowed to bathe and wash on Chalamoid. So some of the people were about Nazir, about Mitzayra, Itamasi L'Tarasa. So they're allowed to shave they're allowed to take haircuts, they're allowed to bathe. That we say a Nazir and a Mitzayra could take a haircut on Chalamoid, is that only if they wouldn't have been able to do it before Yom Tov because they weren't ready yet? Or maybe even if they reached the point where they could have taken a haircut before Yom Tov, they're still allowed to take a haircut on Yom Tov. We looked at it in the Brisa. All of these people who we allow them to take a haircut on Chalamoid, that's only if they couldn't possibly have taken a haircut before Yom Tov. However, Nazir Mitzayra, so the people who just came back from Medina Sayyam or got out of jail, those people only if they wouldn't have been able to take an Erev Yom Tov. But a Nazir Mitzayra, even if they could have taken the haircut Erev Yom Tov, still mutar, we still allow them to take a haircut on Yom Tov, because we want them to bring their karbanis as soon as possible, and they cannot bring their karbanis until they take the haircut. So therefore, we allow them to take a haircut on Chalamoid so that they can bring their karbanis right away. How do we learn? Hakoyin, and we'll see what that means soon. About Ovel and an Ovel, Mutar and Begiluach, they are allowed to take haircuts on Chalamoid. So, Hi Ovel Hechadoni, what exactly does this Brisa mean when it says an Ovel can take a haircut on Chalamoid? A. And B is, clearly our mission doesn't hold like this, because our mission doesn't say Hakoyin Ovel Mutar and Begiluach. So, what exactly are we discussing? If the 8th day fell on Erev Yom Tov. So if the 8th day fell on Erev Yom Tov, so let's think about it. That means today is the first day of Shloshim. So we know Yom Tov is day of Shloshim. He was Mekayim Shiva. He got his 1 day of Shloshim in. So then he should have taken his haircut Erev Yom Tov. How could we allow him to take a haircut on Chalamoid? What if the 8th day was on Shabbos and Erev Erev? So there, he can't take haircut on Shabbos. So Zakhamar for that, he boiled the Levuche Erev Shabbos. He still should have taken his haircut Erev Shabbos because he's an audience. He couldn't take on Shabbos. Halacha like Abishol, and Abishol holds that day 7 of Shiva, because of Mikvah Yom Kuloi, so in the morning of the 7th day, you're finishing your Shiva, and the second half of the day of Shiva counts as the first day of the Shloshim. So the halacha like Abishol, and therefore day 7 already counts as the day of the Shloshim. So this Erev Shabbos, you can easily take your haircut because it counts as the first day of the Shloshim. But even the Chachamim who normally hold that day 8 is the first day of the Shloshim and not day 7, but the Chachamim agreed to Abishol, if Shabbos was Erev Yom Tov, and that was day 8, even the Chachamim Moed shemutir legaleach Erev Shabbos, that they're allowed to take a haircut on Erev Shabbos. So we don't have a case. Exactly what case are we talking about where an avol is mutar b'geluach on Chalamoid? So I just want to stop for a second because Tosfos asked if day 8 is Shabbos, that means the Kvura day 1 must have been on Shabbos, but you don't bury a mace on Shabbos. So how could day 1 ever be Shabbos? You can't bury somebody on Shabbos. So Tosfos suggests maybe it was a shmur chayka. Maybe he found out that someone died on Shabbos, but the person might have died before. But he found out a couple of days later. But therefore, his day 1 was Shabbos. Zok Gemara lo tricha. So where's a case where you could take a haircut on Chol Hamoed? Shechol shvi shaloi liyos b'Shabbos erev harev. Day 7 of the Shiva was erev Yom Tov and was Shabbos. So there's no way he could have taken his haircut before, and therefore Tana bra savar la kabashol. The Tana that we just quoted holds a kabashol. Damar mitzvah yom kakuloi. Then day 7 could act as both days. And day 7 in this case was Shabbos, which was Erev Yom Tov. And therefore we let him take a haircut on Chol Hamoed. But our Tan of our Mishnah, who doesn't mention that an oval is one of the exceptions who can take a haircut on Chol Hamoed. So look, Rabban the army lo yamrinon mixadei bekuloi, and therefore v'akad lo yishlima velos the shiva. And therefore, he didn't finish the Avelis of Shiva, and he's still in the middle of the Shloshim, so he for sure cannot take a haircut of Chol Hamoed. So that was the first case. The other case was a Kohen could take a haircut of Chol Hamoed. What is this Kohen? It's a Kohen who is on his Mishmar. We know during the week of his Mishmar, a Kohen may not take a haircut until Thursday. So Dr. Hi Kohen, hey Chadam. What was the case with the Kohen? He lived in the Shalom Mishmar to Erev Haregel. If the last day of his Mishmar is Erev Haregel, and that has to be on Shabbos, because we know that the Mishmar goes from Shabbos to Shabbos. So if he finishes Mishmar on Erev Haregel, he could have taken a haircut on Friday. We learned that a Kohen of the Mishmar could even take a haircut on Thursday. So the Shalom Mishmar to Biregel. Maybe Shabbos Chol Hamoed was the day he finished his Mishmar. And Tana Didon, our Tana who holds that such a Kohen would not be able to take a haircut on Chol Hamoed. Savar Kivin, non Mishloisha Parakim Mishana, how you call him Mishmar Shavos, Bemor Regol, Chiluk upon him. Since we know that on Yom Tov, all of the Kaihanim that come up to be Oile Regel, it's as if it's their Mishmar, and they can share in all of the Karbanas. So command the Lo Shalom Mishmar to be Regel Dami. So let's look at it that his Mishmar is not over, just because it's Shabbos, it's the end of his week, but he's still going to be considered as part of his Mishmar until the end of Yom Tov, like every other Kohen that's there. And therefore he cannot take a haircut. The Tana B'Rosavar, but the Tana that holds that the Kohen would be able to take a haircut, holds Avagav the Shayach, Bahanach Mishmarais, even though sure he still is connected to all the Kohanim, and it's like it's his Mishmar, because all Kohanim have a right the week of Yom Tov, but Mishmar Temiya Shlimalei, Lamaisa, his own personal Mishmar is over, and therefore he should be able to take a haircut. Tana Rabbanan, Kol Elu Shamim Return the Galech Hamoed, all the people who we said could take a haircut of Hamoed, Return the Galech Hamoed, they would also be able to take a haircut if they're a noble. I would learn that those people cannot take a haircut when they're a novel. Where this Brisa says that all these people can take a haircut when they're an novel, that's b'shetakfu avelo. That you had 2 avelos back to back, meaning on the 7th day of Shiva, he lost another close relative, and now he's going to do 14 days back to back. That's when he could take a haircut. If the Brisa that says that whoever's mutter legalech moed could take a haircut b'mei evla is only if there's 2 avelos back to back. Ma'ir kolelu sharu. Never mind the people who could take a haircut of Chol Hamoed, like someone who just got out of jail or someone who came back from traveling. Any person is allowed to take a haircut if he has 2 avelos back to back. The time we learned that if his hair is too long, make over sari, he's allowed to cut it with the blade, but not with the scissor. And he can wash his begodim. Dr. Gemara, if you stop off 2 avelos back to back, you're allowed to trim your hair, but not with a proper scissor, only with a blade. With water, not with detergent, with oil. You can't use detergent, you only use plain water. So therefore, these people that would be able to take haircuts on Chol Hamoed, when they're an oval, even if it's back to back, they're allowed to wash with detergent. They're allowed to take a haircut with the proper haircutting tools. They don't have to do it with a shinoi. A regular person who has 2 avelos back to back, although he can cut his hair, it has to be with a shinoi. Although he could launder, it has to be without the trim. From this whole conversation, where we're discussing how a noble is allowed to wash, you see clearly that he's not allowed to wash clothing when he's a noble. Okay, let's stop here because the next section gets into cutting your nails. That's a whole new shaila. So we'll stop here. Tomorrow morning at 7 and at 9.
Shkayach.
Goyach, everybody. Have a good Avach.
I hope, Yossi, you had a beautiful Shabbos. I
It
hope
was
you had
beautiful.
I hope you did, because we had a beautiful Shabbos over here. The roof
Really?
spoke. The roof spoke magnificently, and the roof, Rabbi Ox, I went over to him. He said over a word from the Chofetz Chaim. It's unbelievable, truly, truly unbelievable. But I want you to know that on the first daf that we learned, remember, it was quoting all the people that said Rabbi Yitzchak, Rabbi Yaakov. It said all the people, maybe 12 different names.
Right?
Remember? And you said, oh, it's a whole long. It was almost like an email that you get forwarded 100 times. So
Right.
one of the things is he said right afterwards, the Gemara said that a Rav can put a person in Nidoi even when he himself is personally involved.
Right.
So that is going to give him a lot of flack. When he does something like that, a lot of people, so he has to have the Messiah in his hands exactly who he heard it from. So that's why the Gemara points out all the time. You know, who exactly said this, because they know he's going to get a lot of flack. But another thing I just wanted to tell you, just take one more second. The Rav Rabbi Ox said that he quoted the Chofetz Chaim, right? I can quote the Chofetz Chaim just like Moshe Weinberg can quote the Chofetz Chaim, because I came to shul this morning. And the Chofetz Chaim says, you take literally. Uri'isa means that your kinderlach have to see that you heard from Mitzrayim. They have to see you. You have to give them a model that they should be able to see that you heard the kailas. That's how you understand that the kinderlach see that you heard the kailas. That's how he took it. And the thing that when I went over to him, I told him, Rabbi Ox, he spoke for 25 minutes, but the only thing that I heard was this word, that your kinderlach have to see. Who preceded me, who came before me to speak to the Rav? Moshe Sharf. And Rabbi Ox gave him so much covet. He was speaking to Moshe Sharf, was giving him his gematrias. Within the first 5 seconds, Rabbi Ox saw who he was dealing with. But he gave him so much covet, he gave him so much derech eretz, it made a tremendous impression on me. With that, I can shut up.
Any candy?
Okay, Shkayach.
You know, Dave, I didn't want to say Mill sure, but I had a comment about your kasha. If you believe that Rashi was written by Ruach HaKodesh, that's the answer. That's how Rashi knows that it was a Isha Kushis. That it means Kushi means like this, that her meisim were. That's how Rashi knows, because it was written in with Ruach HaKodesh.
Rashi is only quoting Chazal, so. What? Yeah.
Chazal for sure could have had Ruach HaKodesh.
Yeah. They could. I doubt if Rashi had the actual Ruach HaKodesh that we refer to as Ruach HaKodesh, and not in his substance, but more in the volume that he's able to create. So
we also know that Tzipora, even though her husband was not living with her for years, she never said anything. It came out then. When the rest of the people became Nevi'im, she said, I feel bad for them. But she never once said a word and complained about her personal situation, which wasn't good for her.
I think that was in the second year. Eldad and Medad was the second year in the Midbar.
So she
And
for
that's
a whole year,
what we
didn't
know
live
of
with her
her,
husband.
only those 2-3 years. After
But she
that, we
never
don't
said
hear
anything
from
to
her.
anybody. Nobody ever knew it, so she kept it very private.
I told the Giyoris today at my
Okay.
Shabbat table. I told the Giyoris that the Eden are the best nation in the world. We're the best in everything. And she was complaining to me that I'm racist. I said to her, I don't understand. You think HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose the worst nation? Well, he chose the best. So that's why it was still on my lips to say that you chose the best, Moshe Rabbeinu chose the best. And even if you're going to say that the Shidduchim are in heaven and Moshe Rabbeinu didn't make his own choosing, he didn't choose his own wife, you think HaKadosh Baruch Hu took the best man and gave him not the best? He gave the best woman to the best man.
Why did you say you're racist?
So Chayte, well, you had a guest today that called you a racist?
Yeah, because I told her that the Jewish nation are the best there is. We're the best in quality. We're the best people. So she said, how could you speak like that? So I said, what do you think? HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose the worst? He chose the best. You go to the marketplace, you're going to choose the worst.
Why did you join us if you didn't think we were the best?
Yeah, that's right. That's a
Yeah,
good
next time
cut.
I'll
Tell
tell her
her-
to go to your house.
Phil, that's
You
a
should
good
have
cut.
told her that we're the best other than at choosing our guests.
Yeah, I'm not so smart.
David, how cold was it in Florida?
It was a little chilly. It was like it was like in the 40s today, low 40s. I wasn't blowing smoke, but my
There's a lot
hands
of
was
flights-
like it was
a lot
very
of flights
windy.
canceled. There's a lot of flights canceled from Miami tonight and tomorrow up to the East Coast.
Oh,
To
the East Coast
or
is
to Florida?
pardon me?
Were they canceled because of the East Coast or were they canceled to the Florida?
No, because of the East Cost, not because of Florida.
Guys,
it's-
don't make fun of Florida being cold.
No.
We're going to pay a lot more money for oranges.
Bye-bye.
Now, I don't mean in Florida. I mean in Toronto.
Anywhere, yeah. Okay.
Go ahead.
Yes,
Yeah.
when are you coming home?
Go ahead.
Are you driving tonight, Yosy?
I'm going to drive tomorrow morning after Shear.
You have a lot of snow in Lakewood?
They had, I mean, some snow drifts were over 3 feet. On my son-in-law's driveway, it was like 2.5 feet. But
Right.
on the street, it's about straight snow. It's about 12 inches. But they
Wow.
cleared immediately. They're really doing a good job clearing.
Yeah. Mhm. How's
Okay,
that trip?
how's it by you? How's it in the Waterbury?
I think we had about 8 inches up here, but it's also blowing a lot.
Did they also clear by you?
Yeah, this is Waterbury. It's not Lakewood. You know?
Uh-huh.
No, but you're lucky. They say that in New England, it was Gefährlich. They said like hurricane
Cape
kind of
Cod,
wind.
Boston, Cape Cod got hit hard. Yeah. Yep.
Still, I just want you to know that you let me down and Akiva let me down and Shlomi Feintach let me down. And the only one who stood up for me and came to sit by the Rov in Shalashudas was me and Dovi Menzelevsky.
Very nice.
Dovi saved the day.
Listen, I'm not here. I mean, when I say here, I mean, I'm not in Toronto. I'm not in Toronto. So,
Okay.
Where was
Buffalo,
Rabbi
Buffalo.
Ox? Where was Rabbi Ox? Why did he sit with the Rav?
I guess he
Because
davened
when you made the
mincha
life
for
room.
his family or whatever. He davened mincha.
was there a big island? Was there a big island for guests? Because a lot of people were away.
There wasn't. Actually, it was the Ox family that was singing all the Nagunim. So it was almost like I was wearing headphones, and the only my left speaker was working. You know, like in the 80s when you had those old Walkmans and only one worked. So they were singing, and that was it.
Okay.
But it was a beautiful Shabbos. It was a beautiful Shabbos.
I'm happy to hear that.